and by the way, I was being interviewed by Forbes magazine, and I had written in there that my ADHD is my superpower.
I've said the same thing.
And
familiar.
Yeah.
and they came back. The editor said, "That is
We can't
no,
print that.
we can't print that. That's not right. That's a diagnosis. That's a disability." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, no
buddy,
way.
you've never been around someone who has ADHD." And by the way,
Hello, Hey Pops fans. Glad you could join us for another video. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Hey Pops.
We are super excited to bring you this video today. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, building a business, what it takes, how to overcome failures. If those are some of the things that you've been dealing with, this is the video for you. So I have our good friend Mark Leonard here, owner, genius behind the Happiness Breakthrough. Let's see, I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget. He is a 7-figure business owner, recognized as Queen Creek Business of the Year, awarded Queen Creek Trailblazer, but also keynote speaker, World Happiness Summit. 25,000 people. Did I get that number right?
25,000 people at that.
25,000 people, coached over 1,000 people. You have had quite the career.
I've been busy.
You've been busy.
I've been busy.
So Mark and I...
And you just told us you have some experience in doing voiceover too.
Yes.
You'll notice his voice is a great voice for radio. So,
well, I was always told I had that voice for. Yeah, I was always
better
told
than
I had
having
the
a face for radio.
Yes,
I didn't want to say that.
A
but
voice for radio. Actually, at one point when I was in my career, I had a major producer up in Salt Lake. I've never shared this publicly. I think I've only told my wife this.
Wow.
You guys are lucky.
So
Breaking
I
news.
was
Here we go.
I was told by one of the executive producers for FM 100 that I needed to go be on radio, have a talk show. Clear Channel also has several talk shows on the AM dial and now on the FM dial, but they really wanted me to move in that direction, but that was just not was in the cards for me.
Just not what you wanted to
Yeah.
do.
So I was
good for you.
It was exciting. It was kind of fun to be recognized.
Get a little pat on the
Yeah,
back.
a little pat
there.
on the back. But voiceover work is really difficult. It's surprisingly hard.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. I always thought it would be easy.
Well, because we've been talking our whole lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when you have a pressure upon you, and if you have a script, or if you're being called upon to speak intelligently, it's amazing how quickly you lose your faculties and you start to think, did that come out right? Did I say it the right way?
Intelligently. No, that's
That was
That's
the
the
hard
kicker.
part.
Yep.
That was the hard part. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so
neat.
funny.
That's neat.
I love that. Well, I've been excited to have this meeting between you guys for a while. You and I met, gosh, it's got to be 3 years ago now.
At least.
It was through some personal development kind of thing that we were both a part of. And I just remember hearing your story. And then we ended up sparking a conversation afterwards for, gosh, a good hour.
Yeah.
And that was just it was so fun to connect. And this interview I've been thinking about it over and over and over for, oh gosh, a couple years now that we've been doing this. And so I'm glad that we're here.
I am sorry I was played so hard to get. I will admit, and I've been on a lot of podcasts, I've been interviewed in a lot of different places, and I know it was difficult to set this up, but I've learned something in my life.
Yeah.
And it stems from a major project that I was able to watch. I wasn't part of the major project, but I was able to watch this whole process unfold of a creative team that had this great idea. Hey, why don't we do this? And they took it to the powers that be. And the powers that be said, no. And this creative team, they went back and they said, no. I know we're supposed to do this. Surely we're going about it wrong. Let's change our pitch. Mm-hmm. So they reworked it. They changed their pitch. And they went back to the powers that be. And the powers that be said, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. it was a process of over 2 years of going back and forth. And when it was finally accepted, what they learned was the answer was not no. The answer was no, not yet. And I wonder how many times, as an entrepreneur, I am definitely someone who goes after things. And how many times have I been told no? Probably a lot. Yeah. And I say probably a lot because I really try to ignore the no's. But I have learned that sometimes the answer is just no, not yet. And I wonder if that was part of this conversation. Yeah. Perhaps it wasn't the right time for us to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah, it is interesting how that happens.
That is interesting. And I want to say, before I say my comment, Mark,
yes,
we are honored to have you here. And I appreciate that. And I hope our listeners feel that as well. But in my experience, sometimes the powers that be may not be a boss or a committee that you go before. It may be God. It may be, life. Fate. It may be whatever. It just doesn't seem to work, despite all of your hard work. Have you experienced that before? And and then you come back to it a year later, from a different side, whatever, and this time it works.
Absolutely. I would say that's been the pattern of my life. Is I really feel like I need to do something. I'm moving towards it. I'm doing everything I possibly can to make it a reality. And for some reason, it just wasn't working out. For instance, I'm trying to sell some of our businesses right now. In an exit strategy phase and making a transition from business to business, making a transition on where we're going financially, possibly making a transition from zip codes that we're living in.
Yeah. And
a year ago, I thought I had both businesses sold for about $350,000 more than what I'm currently marketing it as. And it's not that I was over marketing. I had an offer.
Oh, yeah.
And it just was evidently not the right time. And at first I was pretty frustrated, thinking, oh man, how could this possibly happen?
Yeah.
And I remember kneeling in prayer. And that's something that I really strive to do often. I was kneeling in prayer and I'm pleading to God saying, I know I'm supposed to go down this path. Why isn't it just opening up? Why on earth is my life not like a Hallmark movie? Why have I not figured out how to just show up to the small town and, oh, look at that, you happen to be a prince.
Can I do that? Can I pick that storyline?
Yeah, but I don't think that is normal for that to happen. I think we have intended opposition in all things. But it is in that opposition that we find the beauty of the life that we have.
Ooh. Yeah. That's profound. In business, obviously, we talk about failure.
Oh, absolutely.
What is the purpose? And you've talked, obviously, around this, different connotations, different words. But what is the purpose of failure? And how do you then approach failure in your life?
Failure is one of the greatest teachers out there, if we allow it to be. See, I think there's two different viewpoints that we can have. And as a mindset expert, as someone who does a lot of coaching of business owners and speaking around the world, there's a really different persona that I tend to interact with. It's those that believe that they're a victim and those that believe that they can provide a solution. And I actually have a framework called Chaos to Control. And in that framework, I look at that mindset piece. Am I going to be a victim or am I going to be offering a solution? If I'm going to offer a solution, then that means even in failure, I need to look at what have I learned? What am I learning in this process? See, if you go back to the story about no, not yet, you could easily become crushed by a no. But I have never failed in business. I've never failed in business. I've had businesses not make as much as I wanted. I've had businesses that might not have been as successful as I was hoping them to be, but I've never failed. I've only learned.
I love that.
And that's
a great mindset to have.
Well, for me, it became the only mindset that I could possibly have that would help me be successful regardless of the circumstances.
I love that.
Was it Einstein that said, it's not that I've failed 1,000 times, but I've found 1,000 times that don't work, or something like that?
It was Edison.
Edison.
It was Edison, and absolutely. And now look at us. We have light bulbs all around, right? We have
Yeah.
electricity. We have all these wonderful things that came out of failure. Failure is nothing more than a teaching mechanism. If we approach it from the concept and the ideology of this doesn't work, that's okay. Something doesn't work. And it's funny because we like to sit here and say, oh, well, sure, maybe you're being Pollyannic, Mark. Have you ever made a recipe, Pops? Have you ever made a recipe that just didn't work out?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I have.
Did you ever attempt it again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What did you learn in that process, right?
And my father was a baker. I grew up in a bakery.
Oh, that's even
So
amazing.
I've been cooking for all my life, and my wife gets after me because I never follow a recipe, and I make soup or something. She says, "Well, this is so good. How are you going to make it again?" I said, "I'm not sure," but I have failed at times and had to throw the whole thing out.
Absolutely.
It's a mindset thing. It's how you approach it.
I walked into one of my businesses today, and we have a brand new product that's getting ready to launch. And we did a big training with a whole bunch of employees yesterday. Spent 20 employees, 4 hours learning all about how to make this new product.
Yeah.
I tasked them with it. I walked them through. I showed them how to do it. I showed up today, and the product was terrible. It was absolutely horrendous. And mind you, this is in a business. This is a 7-figure business that is run by teenagers. I run a 7-figure business with teenagers at the helm. People think I'm absolutely nuts. And I've got to tell you, it's the best thing I've ever done.
What? Why?
Why? Teenagers are hungry. They want to learn. They want to be involved in something big. They want to be respected, valued, and understood. And so it's the same thing that we all want. Yeah. I approach my leadership style with teenagers from that idea of how can I value them? How can I show them value? I love that they're there. I love that they're doing their absolute best. They make mistakes. I make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day.
Yeah. How else are you going to learn?
But right. So I walked in and I was like, girls, and it was several girls. Girls, this is absolutely amazing. What do you think happened here? And I put it on them. I don't sit here and go, oh, that was terrible. We need to throw all these away. I looked and I said, okay, what do you think happened here? What did you learn through this process? Great. Tell you what, here's what we're going to do. Let's put this at the bottom of the freezer. I'm going to cut this up. I will use this as a sample. I'll go give it to somebody else. Yeah. I can't sell it, but I can use this to bless somebody. Maybe I'll go find, I drove by one of the schools today. I thought, there sure are a lot of cars in that parking lot for summer break. I bet they have a summer program. Why don't I just show up with a couple of these?
Awesome.
And just bless them. And then these girls, they will see that their mistake is going to something good.
I think that to me speaks volumes to what the purpose of failure can be. So I think a lot of times people go, oh, well, maybe this was meant to happen. And, and sometimes it's like, well, maybe it was. I think a lot of times it's an opportunity. Are we going to zig or are we going to zag, right? But I think that for me, one of the biggest things that failure has been is a way to bless other people. Like I look at my kids and I've got, I was just talking to you, we're going to have twin boys and now we're going to have 7 boys and 1 girl, right?
So I think you should be very careful using failure and kids in the same conversation here.
8 failures, or 8 children. No, but to be able to take the failure and then be able to help my kids learn those lessons easier than how I learned it.
I think we learn so much about great leadership by watching children develop.
Ooh, big time.
See, a child learning to walk, we never berate. We don't sit here and go, oh, and call the child names. We don't, right?
Why'd you fall down?
Yeah, why did you fall down?
Me? So lazy.
Right? And yet, as someone gets older, we almost take it upon ourselves to think, oh, that's how we should teach someone that they did something wrong. They already know.
Yeah.
They already know. How about instead lift them up and then look and say, okay, what did you learn? What did you learn? Oh, there was a pebble there. You didn't tie your shoes. Great. Let's help you do that.
Next
Let's
time you'll
fix
do it.
that process
Yep.
and watch what happens. Teenage employees learn to run at a very quick pace if you give them the opportunity.
Mark, I've got a question to ask you that this brought up. I have had friends that have had businesses. I got one in Utah where I live, that a place called the Purple Turtle. It's a fast food hamburger
I've been
joint.
there. I
Yeah.
know it very well.
Purple Turtle's been there forever,
awesome.
since
I
I
love
was a
that.
kid. All teenage employees, and he has some of the same experiences you've had. But I've had other people I know that hire teenagers, and almost without exception, teenagers don't want to work. They're lazy bums. They want something for nothing. All of these phrases that we hear about today's teenagers. Why is your experience different with teenagers than others?
Because it's not the teenager's fault. It's the leader. It is the leader and how they are setting up a culture. It's a leader and how they're setting up their employees for success. Many years ago, I was consulting and I walked into a very large corporation that's been around for a very long time. And there's even a tower in Chicago named after this corporation. I walked in and I decided, instead of going through the front door, I would go through the back door. I would go where all the employees went. And as I walked through and I finally made it up to the president's office, I knock on the door. It was closed. And let's use a fabricated name. Cynthia. That's a great name. Sorry to any Cynthias out there. Cynthia, you wanted me to come in here and you have a question about your culture. She says, yes, I absolutely do. I don't know why, but our attrition is terrible. We're losing people like crazy. I said, okay, yeah. Oh, I could tell. And she looked at me, she said, you could tell? I said, yeah, but go on. What are your other pain points? She said, we're trying to create this open culture, but no one is coming to leadership. I said, okay, how much time do you want me to spend solving this? Well, we need an answer pretty quick. I said, oh, it's really simple. I came in the back door. I'll tell you within 30 seconds what was wrong with your culture. Number one, you said that you have attrition. Your attrition problem started because your communication with your frontline managers. And your second problem is even bigger. It's the whole executive row has their doors closed and they said that you have an open door policy. And you don't.
And you don't.
You are lying to all of your employees. Now, if you want me to fix it, we could do that. But you need to start with being truthful up front. With teenagers, be truthful. They could sniff out liars. They've been doing it for years. They could sniff that out very, very quickly. They're trained to do it.
They know when someone's posturing or whether
Absolutely.
they're
Be real with them. If you've ever worked in a youth group, which I have many, many times, we were talking beforehand about scout camps and, going to girls' camps, which is probably one of my favorites, which is because they cook for all of us guys that are there, making sure that everything's running well. They cook fantastic for us. But the thing is, when you work with teenagers, be real with them. Don't try to posture. Don't try to talk about how great you are. Get to know who they are.
Yeah. From their perspective.
Yeah.
I had an experience years ago. I was doing some back safety work for different companies. And one of the companies had a horrible attrition rate. And I asked them about that. Do you have a bad attrition rate? They said no. Because we know this was a food production line. They said there are plenty more people that want the jobs that they have. So we can hire them as fast as they leave.
Oh, gosh.
And another company that made mattresses,
Yes.
I asked them if they have any back injury problems. No, we don't have back injury problems. I said, how many employees do you have? About 48. How many people do you have out right now with back injuries? We have 5. I said, you have 10%,
10%?
of your workforce out with back injuries, and you don't have a back injury problem? No.
Here's your sign.
So, how big of a problem is management just blinders on, don't want to see the problem, ignoring it, hoping it goes away?
One of the things that I've seen in my career is that management is always looking to look good. And I don't blame them. I mean, that's part of the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And, I've played the game. I've been in the game. You have as well. And that's fine. And to all the people that are doing it, I am so grateful that there are managers, that there are hierarchies, that there are people that are introducing themselves to the bottom of the workforce and working their way up. I think those are all wonderful things. One of the things I've seen, though, is that management tends to work for this idea of how can we look better, because they need to protect their job. So they will do things. Oh no, we don't have an attrition problem. We just have a long line of employees. Let me tell you what I do. In one of my businesses, for every one person that I hire, I have 100 applicants. It is easier to get into Harvard than it is to work for me in Queen Creek, Arizona. So I let my employees know that. You are sitting here because you are the very best of the best. And every conversation I approach with them is from that mindset. Don't forget, Mark, they're the best. That changes how I have a conversation, even a hard conversation.
I think that's so fantastic to when talking with other people that we are relying on them to help our business, help us really achieve the goals that we're looking for. But how do you do that with yourself? How do you have those conversations with yourself with that same mindset without being cocky or arrogant or whatever? But how do you put yourself in that same position where you're now more open to receive what you're trying to tell
I have 3 strategies for that.
Please.
So strategy number 1 is I have a coach. I have someone that helps me see something from a different perspective. And I find and of course I'm going to say this, right? Because I'm a coach. So I coach people.
You have a unique perspective.
So I do have a unique perspective, but I've also have seen the difference between executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people that are just trying to rise the corporate ladder. I see a difference in those that have coaches and those that do not.
I'm going to interrupt you here, and I know you've got 2 more things you want to talk about, but you're telling me that you're a coach, but you need a coach?
Oh, absolutely.
Why? Tell our listeners why. You're a coach. You know all the answers, right?
Yeah, I'm a coach. I've coached thousands of people. I have a 96% satisfaction rate, which in the coaching industry is unheard of.
Right.
Why do I have a coach? Because I'm not done growing. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I always need someone to give me that different perspective.
Love that.
Otherwise, do I really think that I'm the gift? Do I really think, as far as I know, there's only one of those.
Yeah.
As far as I know, a little over 2,000 years ago, there was only one who was perfect.
Yeah, and we're very far from that.
That is, to me, this is takeaway number 1 from this whole interview. Folks, I want you to remember this one. If we don't get to anything else, you're not done learning. I'm not done learning.
No.
I don't know everything.
No.
I may be the Tony Robbins of whatever. Tony Robbins has probably got a coach.
He does, actually.
Yeah. All of us need an outside voice to tell us how to grow.
Yes. So that brings me to point number 2.
Yeah.
So 1, have a coach. 2, listen to your spouse. Listen to your spouse. My wife has a way of saying things to me that no one on this green earth could get away with saying. And it's not because she's mean or nasty. It's because she loves me unconditionally.
How often is she right?
If she's listening to this conversation
not be a fair question, 'cause she
all
may be
the
listening.
time. No, absolutely. She is right every single time. It doesn't mean that she has perfect knowledge on it, but she has a different perspective. Her perspective is right. 100%. So when she says something, it is my responsibility to listen. It's my responsibility to step back and go, does she mean that? Is that what she's seeing? If that's what she's seeing, that's reality. That's her reality right there at that very moment. That means, where's the onus of change lie? Me.
Is that the difference between a business coach and a personal coach? Because I'm
Ooh,
sure
that's a
your
good-
wife doesn't have a business perspective like your business coach does.
That's probably true.
But she knows you personally more than your business
She
coach
knows
does.
me personally. And now what's interesting, when I go into businesses, I'll tell you, I mean, I may be considered a business coach. I will never look at a P&L. I don't look at their marketing. I look at the owner. I look at the leadership. I look at them as individuals and what can I do to improve every aspect in their life. If I can help fix that, guess what happens to the P&L? It improves.
Takes care of itself.
Every time.
Because the culture is where it starts. You can have the best product in the world, but if everybody's miserable there, then why are they going to want to,
Because then
promote the product.
you won't have an attrition or a back problem. You'll have a sweep it under the rug problem.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what we were talking about earlier, which is what they are enticed to do. And that's okay. But as a coach, I get to walk in there and say, CEO, I know the exact problem that you're having in your business. I could solve it right now. And they lean forward and they're like, tell me, what is it? Simple. It's you. And the first time I said that, I thought for sure I was going to be fired. I thought for sure. I'm in Texas.
There's the door.
Yeah.
I'm in Texas. We're at lunch. Hasn't even been served yet. This is over the salad. And I'm thinking, this is where it ends. This is the Texas shootout. This is the time I am going to lose everything in my career because I just told a CEO that the whole problem with his business is him. And he sat there and he glared at me. And then he crosses his arms and he looks back and he looks at me. He goes, no one has ever said that to me. Tell me more. I thought, okay.
You thought there's hope here.
Woo!
There's
Now
hope.
we have something that we can work
Yep.
on.
Awesome.
But that is something that as a coach, a great coach will call you on your crap, which will bring me to my third person here that I find. So a coach, number one, your spouse, number two, but the most important one is God. See, if you haven't actually taken the time to kneel down in prayer, and I hope it's okay for me to say it like this here.
Yes.
Please do.
We wanted to get into
okay.
this, so I'm glad that you're bringing it up just this way.
If you have not taken the time to kneel down in prayer and plead with your Father in heaven, notice how I say that. Father in heaven, God, the eternal Father. If you have not taken the time to go to him and say, please show me what I can do different. Please teach me, Father. If you haven't done that, you're not ready for change. That is the very key, is someone that is willing to have the great Almighty, the all-knowing, expose them to themselves. And then after that's exposed, after you begin to see it, then you go, then Father, teach me. Help thou my unbelief. That is where we have that great opportunity. Peter didn't just run across the water. He began to sink. And what was Christ's response to him? O thou of little faith. He was called out. He was called out to recognize, don't you know, I have you. And if God has you, you will never fail. There's no failure in this world. He's already been The Savior's already overcome everything. So then stop worrying about what other people think and say and do and believe. Be more worried about what God believes and line yourself to that.
You've got this because he's got you.
He's got me.
I appreciate that, Mark. And obviously you're a Christian, man. You're talking
Yes.
about Christ. How important is it to be a Christian versus a God-fearing person?
You know, that's a really interesting point because I have some amazing employees. I have Muslims that work for me. And right now, with everything going on in the world, they had to change a trip to go out to Syria because of all the unrest in the Middle East. I have, and by the way, frankly, one of the most incredible employees I have is this Muslim. He has a moral compass that I wish more people had.
Yeah.
Is he wrong? I don't think so. I think what he is learning. He is learning about who God is. And I think as a Christian, I will never tell someone that they have to be Christian in order to be successful. But I will share is that as a Christian, I know that I can overcome any failure because the atonement of Jesus Christ has already been made. I can overcome any disaster. I can overcome any mistake. My own mistakes.
Yeah.
I can overcome any mistake of an employee because the atonement of Jesus Christ has already happened. And if I am not leaning more into that, then who am I? Am I a believer? Am I a son of God?
It's interesting, Mark. I'm involved in an addiction recovery program right now.
Yes.
And obviously it's a Christian-based program, but it's based on the 12-step AA program. And the first step in the AA program, as it is in our Christian-based one, is to recognize that there is a higher power that you need to submit yourself to. Whatever you believe that higher power is, right?
Yes.
Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, whatever. We all need a belief in a higher power because, this is my belief, we need to have a mindset that we don't know everything. And that's what you're talking about with these coaches.
That's right.
You've got 3 coaches you've mentioned. A coach,
Coach.
a wife coach,
Yes.
and a God coach.
Absolutely.
You need to recognize that you don't have all the answers, that you can be taught. And in your experience with this CEO that you told him he was the problem, I'm sure you thought as soon as he said, okay, it's me, what can I do? You thought, this is solvable now.
Now it was.
Yeah,
Because
because he recognized that he
Yes.
didn't have all the answers.
Until someone can offer you a different perspective,
Yeah,
we're going to go along believing what we've always believed. And it doesn't matter what aspect of our life that falls under. If it's, as a father of 7, if it is I'm a grandfather of 13. And it is the most incredible blessing in the world. The hardest thing is I don't get to spend as much time with them as I would want.
Yeah.
But I do know that my children and my grandchildren, if they believe or not believe, I want them to know that I believe.
I love that.
And that to me is important. Another thing that is vital, I believe, is yes, we all need coaches, but we need perspective. This again goes back to my chaos to control framework.
Yeah.
Is how do we allow ourselves to become, right? We need to see ourselves as becoming something. As long as that CEO realized he was one of the major problems in his organization, and by the way, he was the major problem in the organization, once you begin to work on that, you have somewhere to go. Business coaching, life coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, all falls into one great ball of I am imperfect and I'm striving to become something better.
Love that. I
I
think
love it too. Thank you.
perspective is that is, to me, is the key to be able to keep going, whether that's an internal perspective or on a micro scale. Just again, being able to see that I'm just not there yet. Going back to that yet, that's a very important word, but it's instead of saying I'm not where I want to be, being able to throw that caveat of yet in there just changes the entire thing to where you know that you're going to get there.
I believe that's the most powerful word in the English language outside of love.
Yet.
Is yet. Because if you think about this, why are people, in this crazy world that we live in right now, and you hear a lot of people say, I'm really upset, I'm very stressed out, I have all these things, but they all have one thing in common. They have an unmet expectation. Unmet expectations can be solved very quickly by communicating and then recognizing yet is that mindset of I'm moving towards it. See, a lot of people say, oh, I don't have a home, or I don't have my dream job, or I'm not living in Hawaii, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
However, what if all of a sudden I don't have my dream job yet? That tells your mind I'm working on it. Mm-hmm. See, if I stop with I don't have my dream job, that's a finality. That's a declarative statement. You will never get it. Yeah. You will never get to where you want to be as long as you have a finality to your language. If you are always looking for, I'm not there yet. I'm learning there. Do I have all the skill sets? No. Do I have all the money? No. Do I have everything I need? No. But I'm working towards it. Yeah. That tells you that you're always moving in the right direction.
I recently listened to a podcast by, and I don't remember this woman's name now, I apologize for that, but she was talking about, I think what she called the disruption principle. Have you heard this?
I have not.
Disruption, and I hope I describe it correctly with her, but basically we all need to be challenged. We get into dead ends, whether it's a service that we're doing in our church or community, whether it's a job that we have. If we're not challenged, we're not growing. And that challenge phase is what she called disruption. We need to be disrupted from time to time. Can you speak a little bit to that principle in business and how you run a business and how that comes into play with giving your employees purpose and growth?
That's a very complex question, and I hope I can answer it adequately. Disruption is one of the great teachers of this world. If you look at business and business strategy, and you look at blue ocean and red ocean, if you look at these different ideologies of how to expand your business, years ago I used to teach MBA, Masters of Business, as well as Masters of Leadership. And disruption is fascinating because sometimes a disruption is a strength point. Let me give you an example. One of the things, I was looking at pictures of me just 4 years ago, and I have lost about 80 pounds.
Wow.
And I have gained about 25 pounds in muscle. I'm not where I want to be yet. Notice that. Not where I want to be yet. But when I go to the gym, that disruption is I'm pushing, and I can't do any more. So then what do? Well, you have two choices. You could get up and walk away, or you could sit back for a moment, let your body recover, breathe, oxygenate, move around just a little bit to get things moving, and then I can go, okay, I've had my 2-minute rest. Let me give it one more go. Disruption is just nothing merely than an opportunity for us to sit back, take a breather, reassess, and move forward again. Sometimes disruption is, if I do one more, I'm not going to be able to walk out of here. I'm going to be in a wheelchair. And sometimes that's exactly what you're striving for. If that's what your goal is, great, fantastic. Let's help get you there if it's in the gym or in business.
I've never had a goal of being in a wheelchair, Mark.
You know what? I've got to tell you, I did it once. I did it once, and okay, twice, but once was not intentional.
You just thought it was so much fun, you want to do it again?
Yeah. And it was going to a BYU football game. I ended up in a wheelchair, and they said, do you want us to wheel you? Do you want us to take you home? I said, oh, no. Now I get the good seats. So
That's interesting.
so disruption is just that opportunity for us to sit back and go, okay, let me reassess. Let's go back to my original story about no, not yet. That's disruptive, right? No. Okay, you have a choice. Am I going to roll over? Maybe that's right. Maybe that's the right one. Am I going to reassess and come up with a new strategy? Maybe that's the right one. But then let's go back to our 3 coaches. Ask them. Let's go ask them, and let's go back.
To get that perspective.
Get that perspective. I'll tell you, there's one thing I've learned. I am never the smartest person in the room. My goal is to learn from everyone else. I want to be the wisest person in the room.
Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, so the smartest person in the room, they know everything.
Already knows it.
They already know it. The wisest person recognizes what they don't know, and they ask somebody else.
Love that.
Interesting.
Ooh, that's so good.
Interesting.
I mean, I've never been accused of being the smartest person in the room, and honestly,
Now you don't want to be.
yeah.
You don't want to be.
And honestly, that I purposely try to put myself in rooms where I know that I'm not, because that honestly, actually, it was happening around the same time that we met. Is that I was about 30. And I started going to rooms that I was just, everybody else just vastly outpaced me.
You're out of your element.
I was way out of my element. And I was with people that were making millions of dollars or just they were completely financially stable or they're super successful. But what it did for me is that I now could then ask them, what are you doing that I'm not doing?
Yes.
How do I do
Back
that?
to this disruption principle.
Yes.
I'm a physical therapist by trade. I've done it for 40 years. And when I'm exercising, I know that my exercise has to be hard enough to break that muscle down. I have to disrupt
That's right.
my muscle. Why? Because in the disruption process, that muscle grows back stronger than it was before.
Absolutely. And it's not just the muscle, but now we're strengthening the tendons and the connections, and we're also strengthening that mind-body connection, right? All of these things are going to work together to make us stronger throughout. And it doesn't matter if we're rehabilitating or if we are trying to build upon something. It's the same spectrum. It's just where you are on the spectrum.
Same principle.
I have a question. My friend and I were talking about that and just the different challenges that we've had. And the question that was very pertinent for us was how, because when you're breaking down your muscles, there is some recovery time before you get started again, but you don't want to stay there too long. How do you find the right amount of time to take a breather before you get back on that horse again after you've fallen off?
My wife and I, we were just having this conversation, and we were talking about the difference between which would be better. Is it better for us to go quickly or to be perfect? And she and I have 2 differing perspectives on this. And I love it because she brought a different perspective for me. She is definitely much more of a perfectionist than I am. I am a full-fledged ADHD through and through.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready. No. I am a fire. Oh, wait, what did I just do? Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, now let me aim.
Even
Yeah. So, but that's one of my strengths. I approach things from the perspective of let me fail quickly so that I can perfect along the way. I want to move so quick that I'm outpacing everyone else 2, 3, 4-fold. And that's what I've done with all of my businesses. We own 4 right now. And I am always moving. I'm never perfect, but I'm striving to become perfect. And all it is for me is how quick can I fail and figure out what didn't work? That didn't work? Great. What did I learn? Oh, yeah, that was a really bad pitch, Mark. That was terrible. You cannot call someone that name. I didn't call him a name. But I have had these moments in life that you're doing something in business and you're like, did that just come out of my mouth? Is that what I meant to say? Because those ADHD moments can be very creative.
I'm card carrying.
Yes.
I'm with you on that.
And by the way, I was being interviewed by Forbes magazine, and I had written in there that my ADHD is my superpower.
I've said the same thing.
And
Familiar, huh?
Yeah.
and they came back. The editor said, "That is
We can't print that.
we can't print that. That's not right. That's a diagnosis. That's a disability." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, no
buddy,
way.
you've never been around someone who has ADHD." And by the way, I would say almost every single entrepreneur that I work with and every CEO, we all have it.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing. And I love it.
I like to say that really, if you look, I'm a huge nerd also. Love superheroes, love all that nerdy garbage. But one of the things that I love is that every superpower that all the superheroes have, that everybody looks up to, at one point was viewed as this, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Why is this happening? Why am I this way? Why blah, blah, blah. I'm sure many of you guys have also felt that way. And I have felt that way with my own ADHD and all these other things. Why don't you sit still? Why don't you think before you act? Why don't you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. But I guess I'll turn this into a question. How do we take what we might view as a weakness and turn it into our superpower?
Learn more about what that weakness does. Learn more about how you can work with the weakness. All right, Doc, let me ask you this. So if you're a physical therapist, I love this. What I did not share with you is one of the reasons why we're selling some of our businesses. My wife just got accepted to Hawaii Pacific University for her doctorate of physical therapy.
Oh, that's awesome.
We are in our 50s, and we are going to be moving to Hawaii so that she can become a physical therapist. And here's what's even better about this. She doesn't want to go work for somebody else. She doesn't want to be a physical therapist per se.
Interesting.
Will she? I don't know. Will we own clinics? Probably. That's just who we are.
Yeah.
You know, we'll start something. We'll do something with it. But so is you're thinking about this spectrum of people that are needing to be rehabilitated. Are they broken?
Again, it's your perspective, I think.
It is, right? So if it's our perspective, if we learn the perspective of what our disability does for us. By the way, one of the most amazing volunteer things that I have done is I've helped with wheelchair rugby. I've helped at wheelchair.
I've done wheelchair basketball.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Wheelchair soccer. We were invited to go kayaking with people in wheelchairs. I'm sitting there going, I don't think I could keep up with these people, right? The ones that everyone goes, oh, they have disabilities. It's terrible. It's terrible. The strongest people I've ever met are the ones that lean into what others consider a disability.
My perspective, or my feeling in that is where or how you define yourself. I just had a knee replacement surgery. Am I a knee replacement?
No.
Yes, I have a knee that's not 100% yet, but I'm still a person independent of my knee replacement. I'm a person independent of a wheelchair.
That's
I'm
right.
a person independent of ADHD. It's how you define yourself, which is a perspective issue. And you can't define yourself by a disability. You can do whatever you want to do.
Some of my greatest teachers are some of my blind grandchildren. See, I have watched two of my grandchildren that are blind run through the house. And yet I walk in a room and I've got to have all the lights on. I have to have everything illuminated in order to know where I'm going. They just keep moving. They have no idea that it's different. for anyone else.
Interesting.
It's how we define it.
I had a classmate in an anatomy class in college. This was a higher level anatomy class. We were doing dissection. We were studying cadavers.
Yeah.
I walked into the lab one day, and one of my classmates, who was blind, had her friend place this gal's hands on the heart. Okay? I had a hard time doing this seeing, but she, with her hands, traced all of the arteries from the heart out through the arm. Every branch that came off, she named them.
Yes.
And I was absolutely flabbergasted.
Yes.
Because she wasn't defining herself as a blind classmate. She did it just fine.
That's absolutely correct.
Better than I could do, I could see.
I was just saying, it sounds like not just fine. It sounds like better than everybody else.
Phenomenal.
Because a disability does not define us.
Yeah.
Broken does not define us.
Right.
It is our perspective of what we could learn through that process. It's our perspective of how can we be strengthened as we understand it more. It's our perspective of what we choose to focus on. Everyone has the opportunity every single day to wake up and say, this is going to be a great day or this is going to be a terrible day. Everyone has that opportunity. Everyone has the opportunity to say, they did this to me. They can. If you want to live as a victim, that's your choice.
Right.
And if that's all you want to have in your life, and you can say, well, what about I have this mental illness? Okay. I know a lot of people with mental illness that are also very happy with depression. How is that possible? It's a perspective that they strive and they practice. You don't wake up perfect. You wake up with an opportunity to grow. It has to do with, where do I want to put my focus in my life? Am I one of the greatest miracles on the face of this planet because I have a God in heaven who loves me? Or am I going to succumb to what social media is saying?
I remember, sorry. I remember, so depression is something that I've struggled with a lot, and it's terrifying.
It is.
At times. But it is wild looking back on it, as I have had help from my parents, who I love so much. My wife, talking about my coach, she's incredible. My children that have helped me through it, and also the many medical professionals, right, that have given me tools to be able to help myself through those difficult times. Looking back on it, it's amazing that something like depression, I can look back now and see that it was the fire that was turning me into an emotional superhero. I can look at how I'm feeling in any given moment and go, oh, I need to watch out for this, because I know how this is going to end if I go down this road. It's the wildest thing, the perspective that has given me to learn about how I feel. And then I'm just like, gosh dang, like I wish that everybody could have this much self-awareness of how their feelings or a certain thought is going to lead them down an emotional path.
This is where I'll tell you, everyone has that ability.
Yeah.
And a great coach will help identify what those different triggers are.
Beautiful.
Because now, as a coach, I don't focus on trauma, and I don't focus on the things that a psychologist
Right.
is really, really good and why we need to have them. But I coach psychologists. I've had several psychologists that I coach. And I asked them, I said, why don't you just go to another psychologist? Because we want to move forward. And in that moving forward, it's understanding what are those triggers that I can recognize, so that when I see it, I have a game plan.
Love that.
A great coach gives you a game plan. If you think about the world's best sports teams, they all have a coach. They all have a coach.
More than one.
Yeah, and by the way, many of them have mindset coaches. I chose, instead of going to the sports and athletic realm, I chose to work with business owners and people that want to own a business or trying to figure out how to save their marriage while their business is struggling.
Yeah.
Right? I work with those people that have these real world challenges and struggles. But everyone has that ability to identify those triggers and create a game plan so that when they walk in and they see, oh, that's it. Like, right, talk about addiction recovery, right? As someone who was diagnosed as an alcoholic at 17 years old, I know what my triggers are. I had to, because I needed to be able to walk into someplace. And by the way, after many, many years, I can go sit at the bar with my dad and have dinner and not have a single iota of temptation.
Awesome. Drink.
Because I have understand the triggers that caused me to get to that point well before I sat at the bar.
I have found too, and part of this was through my work with addiction recovery, one of the greatest gifts I feel that God has given me is the ability to choose.
Oh,
My agency. And that leads me to one of the questions that I was going to ask you in this interview. When people tell you you're a failure, either straight out or indicate that you have failed, that can be devastating.
you can.
It can really be deflating, sometimes career-ending. How do you deal with not just deal with failure, but deal with people's perception of you failing?
That is a great question, and hadn't thought about this in many, many years. I remember, this is probably 25, maybe even 30 years ago, and my father told me, my father, who is one of my best friends, I just spent last week with him in Florida, just hanging out, and it was absolutely amazing. But I remember this conversation. We were at dinner, and he said, "You will never be successful until you're making $150,000 a year." And at the time, think about this, 25 years ago,
It's a lot of money.
that was a lot of money. And for many people right now, that's a lot of money.
I'll take it.
Right. So, and so how did I get to the point that those opinions of others are kind of like water off of a duck's back?
Yeah.
And there's a couple strategies that I put into place. One, I have lost more money than many people have ever imagined making. That is great for humility. That is amazing. Something that I have shared on occasion, I'm starting to share more, is that 9 years ago, we lost over $200,000 a year in income and almost lost our house, lost my retirement, and I was delivering groceries, and I couldn't afford to put groceries on my own table. My car breaks down in a Fry's parking lot. And I just cried. I sobbed. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is not what I imagined my life to be. I had people telling me I was a failure. I had family telling me I was a failure. And the thing that fueled me was those words. Because I went home to my wife, my best coach. She never called me a failure. She said, let's figure this out. Think about this. 8 years ago, I lost everything. And let me put it this way, again. It wasn't the first time. I filed bankruptcy twice. I'm not proud of that. I've hurt people because of that. But I've learned something great about resilience, about the ability to bounce back. Every failure is temporary. Every bruise heals. Every cut will heal. If I continue to put on the ointment of Christ, and if no matter what happens, I don't give up. within just a few years, we opened up one of our businesses, one of them that you know of.
Yeah.
And we have now broken every record that has ever existed since 1996, with the exception of one. There's only one more to go. And it's the highest sales in any given year. And I was close. I was close. But I actually had someone from corporate tell me, you'll never do it. You'll never do it. There's no way. So then I went, fine. How else can I beat him?
Hold my drink.
Yeah. Oh, that's exact. Not my drink. Hold my Gatorade.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I looked at all the other records and I said, got this. I got this. I was broke 4 years ago. I got this, right? Because this is 4 years after I was broke. And being broke is amazing. I loved
There you go. There's
how
the,
much
there's
I
the,
learned.
There's the thumbnail. Being broke is
Being
amazing.
broke is amazing, right? Because it gave me a place to start. I only had one way to go. Could I go lower? That was pretty debatable. I could turn back to my addictions. That was a choice. I wasn't happy. So then it wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
The choice was I could put everyday effort. We worked 100 hours a week, 7 days a week without a day off for months. I still work probably, I think I'm part-time now, so I think I'm only working about 60 to 70 hours a week. and I sat at the pool yesterday. I go on trips. I get to do things that people are like, wait, you did this? I'm like, yeah. I lived like I was poor. I worked my guts out. And anytime someone told me no, that was nothing more than fighting words for me to go, hold my Gatorade. I got this. Let me show you. What was the record? Done. I will not give up until I beat it. That was my mentality. Because a failure is just an invitation to rise. I don't want... You ever fall off a horse? Literally?
Yeah.
That hurts.
It does.
Yeah. I don't want to be there. So I have a choice. Get up, get back on, and keep going.
I love that.
It doesn't matter how much pain you're in. Keep going. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. Keep going. It doesn't matter how many people tell you you'll never amount to anything. You're a failure and you will never succeed. Keep going. Use that as the fuel to show the haters, to show the doubters, to show yourself. When I look in the mirror, I want to be proud of who I see. I want to be proud. And that's why I weighed so much. That's why I was 320 plus pounds, because I was defeated and I decided not to be that one again. I'm not skinny yet, but I'm working every day.
Yeah.
I'm working every day to go, I have a choice. Chocolate cake for breakfast? Pretty good.
As long as you put ice cream with it, it's okay.
Yeah, well, I do own
gotta
ice
get
cream
your dairy
shop,
in.
so that one does
Yeah.
work for me. But or I can get up and say, how am I going to fuel my day? And that was what changed for me.
I actually have a question
Yeah.
along those lines, because that choice
Yes.
of not chocolate cake,
Yeah.
that is a victory.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
how important are the little victories along the way to the big one, that big goal, the breaking the record?
Yes.
How important is it to reach them and to recognize them along the way?
Okay, so number one, as an entrepreneur, we set huge goals.
Big time.
Huge goals. Right now, I'm only a seven-figure.
I love how you frame that.
Only a seven-figure.
Beautiful.
Remind you, 8 years ago, I made more when I graduated high school in 1991 as a lifeguard for YMCA. I made more in my first year out of high school than I did 8 years ago.
It's amazing.
Not saying, oh, for inflation. No, dollar for dollar. I was broke. I look at it from two perspectives. One, what is my long-term goal? And my goals are big. Big. Not because I want to be the wealthiest person, but because I want to be able to serve more people. I don't want to be the wealthiest person. I want to be the one that serves more. I want to be the one that quietly, without anyone else knowing, helping someone in need. That to me fuels me. So that's one. So I have a big goal. Two, the most important thing, because I'm an entrepreneur with big goals, is that daily recognition of what am I doing. Every single day, gratitude. And people go, oh, that's so overrated. That's so foo-foo. Really? You want to get down to psychological science? Here we go. Agency number one, psychological agency, one's ability to make a choice. What do you know? That's found in the Bible. Things in the Bible are still applicable today.
Big time.
Big time. So agency, we must have agency. I have a choice. I can choose to fail or I could choose to rise. My choice. No one else's. No one can take that choice away from me. No one can take that choice away from me. I can put flaxen cords around myself by some of the choices I make, meaning there is a form of repentance that needs to happen, both temporal or spiritual, right? Because that is part of it, right? Change needs to happen.
Yep.
But as I am moving forward with agency, and the second is gratitude, those two things paired together have been proven to have the greatest impact on someone's success. So my gratitude practice every single morning, every morning, scriptures, prayer, something that fuels my mind for learning, journal gratitude.
Love it.
End of day, what do? Scripture, prayer, something that fuels my mind, and gratitude.
Love that.
My bookends cannot be taken from me. No one can take it. No one can take those. No matter where I am in the world, no matter what hotel I'm in, I have access to all of those things at all times.
Love that.
And I can choose to use that or not. So gratitude, if you walk into my home right now, you will see a framed gratitude board from a couple years ago. If you walk into my office, I have a gratitude board next to my desk. So that as I'm working, I'm like, you know what? You're right. This is a hard day. I need to focus on my gratitude. Let me write something else every day. I have a strategy for marriages. Can I share this really quick? Sorry.
Sure, please.
Okay.
But we got as long a time
my
as you're
goodness
willing
gracious.
to stay.
Oh, see, that's a scary thing. When I was a professor, it was a 4-hour class, so I can speak for a long time.
Buckle in, guys.
But buckle in. I've given 16, 20-hour workshops. I've got this. This is easy. So one of the things and I credit my wife with this, and I call it the $3 marriage fix. And I've taught this many, many times, and I think she found it in a conference that she went to back in the 90s. So it's been around, but listen to this $3 fix. Here it is. I want you to go down next time you're starting to feel like your wife is getting on your nerves. I want you to go buy a poster board and a permanent marker and a roll of tape. $3. Go to the dollar store. Okay, $3.28 after tax. You'll find that in your car cushion. Don't worry, it's down there. You missed the change drawer.
Yeah.
You still have enough change for that. And you're going to hang that up next to her side of the bed. And every day you're going to put her name right in the middle. And then every day you're going to write something new that you love or appreciate about your wife. And you're going to do that for 30 days straight without repeating. The first one, you're going to be like, oh, Mark, this is so easy. Day 2, you're like, I got this. My wife is so hot. My wife is beautiful. She is such a good mother. And then you're going to get to the point you're like, she's a good cook. She cleans. And then you're going to get stumped. And that's where the work happens. It happens about 13 to 14 days in. And you're going to start going, wait a second, I can't repeat. I got to find something else I love about my wife. Something else that's absolutely amazing about her. So now you're digging deep. So you got rid of the easy answers. We'll call them the SRAs, standard relationship answers, right? When you get past that, now you're digging deep into your marriage and you're just having to really think about it. But here's what's really cool. You get 30 days in, flip it over, do it again. Something amazing will happen with your marriage. You will see your spouse in a new light. You will see your spouse in a light that will change how you talk to your spouse. It will change what you think about your spouse. It will change how you talk about your spouse with your friends. It always amazes me. I would go on these business trips and I would go to these events and these guys are sitting there with their bravado, beating their chest, and they're talking about their ball and chain. And I'm all, what are you talking about? Well, my wife did this, my wife did that, the old ball and chain. I said, oh, I bet your marriage sucks. And they're all, well, no. I said, well, it must, because that's all you talk about is how bad it is. What would happen if you actually started talking about how great it is? Challenge them. Challenge them. Look, here's a reality. If they keep talking about how terrible their marriage is and how terrible their wife is, you don't want them to be your friend anyway. So you might as well challenge them to rise up. You might as well challenge them to say, hey, what if you change how you talk about your spouse? See, it starts with $3, a poster board, roll of tape, and a permanent marker. You will change. Hey, for $4, watch this. You'll change every aspect of your marriage when you go home. You're going to do this. I know this. I already know this about you. For $4, and if you need poster board, I've got some.
Okay,
so
cool.
You're going to hang one up on your side of the bed, one on her side of the bed. On your side of the bed, it's going to say, Mitch. Every day, she's going to write something about you. Imagine how you will view her when you're writing something great about her on her side of the bed, and then you see something that she loves about you on your side of the bed. Imagine going to bed every night. That's the very last thing that you see, and it's the very first thing that you see every day. It changes your marriage.
It's amazing. And to bring that kind of around to, business and goals and all these other things, self-perception, if you are looking for it, you will find it. And I think that, kind of that 13, 14-day mark, you start really searching. But the amazing thing is that you will find it, right? And we've been told, seek and ye shall find, right? Knock and it'll be open. But you actually have to do the seeking to find it, whether it's about yourself, whether it's about your business, the answers, the things, those victories, those small victories. You have to actually be looking for them to be able to recognize them.
So then let's put this into a business perspective.
Yeah.
What if you did that for every one of your employees? Maybe it's just in your own journal. Maybe it's just in your own journal. And you have one employee that you're like, I am so frustrated with this employee. I need to either coach them up or coach them out. So before you do that, before you make the decision to coach them up or coach them out, what if you took some time to think about every single day something good about that individual? Now when you go to have that coach them up or coach them out conversation, it's going to change how you hold that conversation. It's tough to fire people. And it hurts. I tease and I say, I'm heartless. I'm heartless. I got this. But deep inside, I'm crying. And when you fire a teenager, you've crushed their world. And there are not many things that a teenager could get fired for with us. We always start with, every time, first day, I'm like, hey, congratulations. You are one of 100 people. You had a better chance of getting into Harvard than you did working for me. But let me tell you something. I'm going to start with the 4 ways to get fired. Number 1, sexual harassment. Number 2, bullying. Number 3, you don't show up and you don't call out. You didn't find someone to cover, you're gone. And number 4, stealing. And that means stealing time. That's it. And then I say, but let me tell you, if you come in drunk, high, addicted, let me help you. I'm not going to fire you. Let me help you. See, the others, I have to protect my culture. Right. I have to keep it safe. But for everything else, now, how can I help this individual? And it starts with me seeing them as God sees them. Notice that 13, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days with your spouse, if you started doing that with your employees and started writing these things down, you begin, there's only one way to start seeing them. You start to see them how God sees them. It changes how you lead.
You see them for that infinite potential.
Absolutely.
How often have you done that for yourself? Put your own word up there and say, I'm Mark. This is what I like about me.
This morning. Wow. Did you look at my journal this morning? It was this morning. It was literally this morning, 6 a.m. We were at one of our businesses.
You have got to know that you are of worth
Yes.
to succeed, to really succeed. Otherwise, you may succeed temporarily, but you're going to fall. You need to know that you have worth.
Yeah. I am a son of a Heavenly Father who loves me, and I love him. He gave his only begotten Son for me. For me. I think for you too, but I know he gave him for me. Every day, I try to come with that perspective. When you start thinking about the things that you love about you, doesn't matter. I was 320 pounds. How do you think I started? What do I love about me? I was depressed. We have a lot of depression and anxiety in our home. So I resonated.
Yeah.
We have a lot of mental health struggles in our home. And I know my own struggles. So I have to intentionally every single day, even when it's hard. And sometimes it's really hard to even come up with one thing. But if I can come up with one, celebrate that one. Celebrate it, because that was the one that I needed to have that day.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I get a chance to do it again. Yeah. Because God loves me. And because I have worth. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. And in our faith, even when I pass away, I'm not done yet. I get to keep growing.
Nor is he done with you.
Amen. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that. So, which by the way, when you're letting someone go and you're firing someone and a teenager, I had to let a teenager go for $10.36. That hurt. That was hard. And this employee was sobbing in my office as I was letting them go. Please, can I do anything? And they're just asking. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, justice, mercy, justice, mercy. How do I have that great balance? And what they were asking of me is to have so much mercy that I was going against what I said was most important. Honesty, integrity, stealing.
Yeah.
And that was hard.
You've got to learn to set boundaries. And
I have to set those boundaries.
maintain them.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, it made that conversation spiritual. Because now I could see that individual, how God sees them. I was heartbroken for them. And it changes. So now it's not a heartless thing to do. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for that individual to grow from this. By the way, if that individual reached out to me, said, would you give me a letter of recommendation? Or, hey, I've got this job interview. Can I use you as a reference? Yes.
That's awesome.
Because I could talk about their good things.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it was not out of malice. It was out of youth. That's different.
So you brought something up that was interesting, and it's something that I've been chewing on. And I know we're getting to I think maybe the end point here, but our conversation here is a perfect example of what I'm about to say. How it's where it's gone is you talked about how it could be a spiritual experience. You're a 7-figure business owner. You've coached CEOs and all this other things. Surely there's no those things can't be spiritual experiences. It's not personal. It's just business. I hate that phrase. You want to know how to get me riled? Tell me that, right? But my
Is that right?
my question is, how have you seen in business when you've made it personal, when you've made it that spiritual, deep down into your spirit, what you are, when you've made it about that, how has that made you more successful on the business side?
When actually just this week, I had someone ask me about our employees. And I was telling them, I said, oh yeah, this individual, they went to this high school, they played this sport. I was able to go to their games. And and this one, they're getting to go off to college. I'm so excited for them. And this individual, they're not sure what they're going to do, but I'm so excited that I get to be there at this crossroads as they decide the next steps. And this lady, she said, you know your employees. I said, well, yeah, they work for me. Of course I know them. And she was so shocked. She said, yeah, but you know where they go to school. I said, oh yeah, I know some of the friends too, because they'll hang out. This is how you know you have a successful business. When your employees are off shift and they bring your friends and they hang out.
Oh, that's awesome.
That to me shows that I'm more interested in them. It's not about my product. It doesn't matter what I sell.
You're more important. They're more important as people, not as employees.
That's right. I know who they are.
Yeah.
And it's one of my, this may sound funny, a conversation I've had to have multiple times. And I had to have it recently with a fairly new employee. And Dave, I'll use his name as Dave this time. Fairly new employee. And I said, Dave, remember when we talked about coming on board here and how I only hire the best of the best? And they're like, yeah. I said, Dave, you're not acting the best right now. You're not acting the best, and I'm going to give you 1 week to figure out what the best looks like. Here's what I ask of you. In this next week, I want you to text me tonight. What does the best look like for you? What do you think it looks like? Not what you think I want it to look like. I want to know what you think the best looks like for you at your job here. And then once you text that to me, I want you to start living that. I give you 1 week. If you don't fix that, I'm going to have to let you go. Because I only hire the very best of the best. And I hired you because I know you're the best of the best. See, notice what I did. I primed them. I said, you, Dave, are the best. But you're not acting the best. Redefine the best and start acting that way.
Now you've given them a choice.
That's up to them. See, it's a teenager. I gave him responsibility over his actions. I didn't say you're lazy. No. He's a toddler in business. He's a toddler in business.
Just starting.
They're just starting. They're going to fall down. Have a conversation with love that's direct. It's not about all these great things. These teenagers have no idea what I've done in the world. They have no idea. They don't need to. They don't need to know my accolades and when I walk in a room. They don't need to know those things.
Yeah.
They only need to know that I know them. That is how you become successful, is you know the individuals that you work with.
It's amazing.
And by the way, it's the same thing with my vendors. I get to know them.
Love that.
It's the same thing with the organizations that I serve through the community. If it's through my business, I want to know about them. I want to know what their pain points are. I want to help solve their problems. If I can do that, I will always be successful in business. Yeah. My 7 will be 8. I have no doubt
It's amazing.
my 7-figure will be 8. Not because I'm great, but because I know that people are great. That's it. I know people are great, and I want to help them realize their greatness. That's it.
Wow, Mark.
Great. It's been terrific, Mark. There's so many, and I remember early in this conversation, I stopped you and talked about, this is a takeaway. We've got a whole host of them here now, and I hope that our listeners remember that and look through these interviews and find those takeaways for you, because they're going to be different for everybody.
Absolutely.
But, for me, you've covered so many, about coaching, who your coaches are. You've got 3.
Yes.
And I lean on the same 3. The fact that you have agency and you give your employees agency, because that's so important. Let them make those decisions. They can choose whether to succeed or fail. If you give them the framework of this is what it takes to succeed, then they can choose.
Yes.
How you treat failure. Again, you have the choice of how you treat failure. How many times you fall, as long as you get up the same number of times, you're okay.
Absolutely.
What failure means. We have so many of these takeaways, and you've been terrific. I love your perspectives. And do you have a way that people can get in touch with you that you can share with our people?
Yeah.
Either to work with you or to whatever it is. Where can they find you?
Absolutely. You could go to my website, The Happiness Breakthrough, fully spelled out. Yes, I know it's a long URL. I know. I've thought about shortening it.
We'll put a link.
But the problem is it's trademarked now, and I have a trademark for my product and trademark for what I do. And so now I'm kind of stuck with it. So thehappinessbreakthrough.com. That's my website. I have my phone number listed there. I have my email listed there. Perfect. I have everything that you need. If you want to find me on social media, I do daily videos. Awesome. Go to Instagram. It's The Happiness Breakthrough. Go to Instagram. That's where I do most of it. I'm on TikTok. I've got a lot of videos on TikTok, and that's a fun platform, by the way. I learn a lot from my employees on there, but TikTok, I'm on there as well. But probably the easiest is Instagram, The Happiness Breakthrough.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, this just has been absolutely amazing, and you can honestly really feel your love for us, for everybody that's watching, and ultimately that is what our life is about those relationships
and sharing that love.
Can I share one last thing?
Sure. Please.
Don't give up. No matter how hard life is, get up. Don't give up. Don't let Satan win. No matter how hard it is, try again. Find a friend. Talk it out. Have someone in your corner. Pray. You have eternal worth. You are the greatest gift. You are beautiful. You're special. I know, because I have traveled the world. I've been blessed to see and meet the most amazing, astounding individuals. I have seen the most beautiful gardens, all the way from the gardens of Japan to Amsterdam. And not one of these is arrayed like you are. You are a son or a daughter of a heavenly Father, and He loves you. Get up. Do it again. Keep trying. It doesn't matter if you failed. I have failed so many times. It's why I'm successful. If you're failing right now, get help. Talk with someone. If you are ready to get to the next level, get help. Talk with someone. But whatever it is, know that I may not know you, but I am cheering for you. I am driven by seeing other people become successful. It is the most amazing thing. I love watching people overcome challenges, difficulties, tribulations, trials. I love watching people triumph. I know you can do it, and I know you can do it because you're here right now. That means that you care. That means that there's something inside of you that's telling you that you have worth, that you have value. Go. Act. Don't be acted upon. Act. You can do it. I know you can.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you. I know that you guys have, if you've gotten to this part, I know you have gotten just as much out of this as we have. Please leave your comments below. And like Mark is telling you, all of us, if you feel like you're not there, don't be scared. Just keep going because you're not there yet. That's the biggest takeaway.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you guys.
Great.
We'll
Thank
talk
you,
to later.
gentlemen. Thanks, brothers.
Good to see you all again.
Thank you.